So you've got a good story. Ideally, you have several stories. You've shared it with the world. You're ready to start speaking. So now, anytime you have an opportunity to speak in front of people, whether it's 2 people, 20, 200, or 2,000, you have a story, and you have a system for creating a story. So here's how to get even better. After every single speech or presentation you give, if you're talking to more than 10 people, typically someone will come up to you and say, Jim, good job today, good speech, or Sally, good presentation. Now what most people do in that situation is they just say, hey, thanks a lot, appreciate it. You just threw away a valuable opportunity to learn, to get market research. Here's the way to learn from every speech. Say to the person, hey, thanks so much. Do you mind telling me, what do you remember from the presentation? What stands out? How would you talk about this to someone who wasn't here? How would you summarize it? Any stories stand out? And then just listen. Because it may be you weren't good at all, not you of course, but in some situations you can ask that question. The person says, well, you know, everything was great, you were very professional, well done. If they can't tell you specific messages, specific stories, it means you failed as a speaker. You want them to throw back in your face, oh yeah, the story when you told about bum, 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 and they're throwing it back in your face. So if you're getting feedback from multiple sources, you know your story works if they're all talking about the same story. Now, maybe you have 5 stories in your presentation, but everyone is giving you feedback on 1. Well, that's a good indication that you should perhaps make that story, the lead story, expand it because it simply resonates more. That could become your signature story. The other thing that's quite helpful is when you're giving a presentation, after your prepared remarks, quite often, there's a time for question and answer. Now, I've seen this countless times where someone gave a presentation that was straightforward, almost a data dump, boring, but then when they're asked questions, they come alive and they have an interesting, compelling story, case study, to answer questions. And that's what people remember. So what you may find is that when people are giving you feedback, they remember the story you gave as an answer to a question in the Q&A session. Great, but next time, don't wait for someone to ask that question. Instead, tell the story that you did in the Q&A session and put that into your prepared remarks. And the final tip related to this, of course, is videotape every single presentation you give, or at least audio record it, so that you can listen to yourself tell stories, figure out what worked better this time. Great stand-up comics do this all the time. Listen to your stories, watch your stories as you're giving them to audiences, and you'll get better and better.